Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dark Academia. I'm Faith,
I'm Emma.
and today I think we got a fun topic. It's fun for me.
I'm excited. I'm just like jazzed to learn about.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about Hector Berlioz and the Symphony Fantastique, which is easily considered his magnum opus, his greatest work,
I'm
and
ready.
yeah, one of the quintessential pieces that represents Romanticism.
I love good romanticism literature and art, but I know like virtually nothing about music except if you look up playlists, it's a lot of like classical. But I don't know about this particular movement music.
Yeah. Um, Basically, for I'm guessing people that listen to this know that romanticism is like a totally different concept than what
It's all
most
about
people think of.
it's all about like the sublime and like emotion, but like
Yeah,
completely freed emotions.
yeah, it's like my first point is emphasized intense emotion. So you're right, you got it. uh, Emotions like apprehension, horror, terror, awe, especially the ones experienced in nature, because that was a big thing. Is we're getting back to the natural person, and that means you're in nature. But this isn't like, I believe it was classical that was like we're having tea out in the garden and that kind of nature, like tame, kind, pretty.
Yeah.
But in romanticism, sorry. In romanticism, it's like there's something hiding in the forest nature.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's like the untamed like wilds where like classicals like look at these prettily trimmed hedges made into
Yeah,
topiaries.
this one looks like a cat.
This is a horse.
Okay. Yeah, and romanticism focuses on like intuition and emotion rather than the Enlightenment, which was all like a heightened sense of rationalism. We don't do that here.
We're not about logic.
No,
This is a fun
100%
world.
no. This is the complete opposite. The direct opposite of realism, the Enlightenment. Concept of genius is super important, so it's got to come from your own head.
Or like
Nothing.
this like godly spirit of genius or like being
Yeah,
bestowed this information.
yeah. You have to have original imagination. Okay, so now let's get into Berlioz himself,
The man, the myth, the
the
legend.
man, the madman himself. He was born in 1803, which I believe is around the start, well, what some people consider the start of the um, Romanticism period.
There's like
He
a
was,
weird blurred line thing with
yeah,
like movements where like the other one's like still there, but it's like, look at me, and then this new thing's coming in.
at Beethoven.
Oh, rip.
Classical and
He did his best.
organic. Yeah, no, he did good. Um, Berlioz was supposed to be a doctor like his father, one of those medical families where you like everybody does the same thing. But he started medical school and then decided that's super not for him and did music instead.
I love him.
You know, like most musicians.
You're allowed to say that. I'm not.
So the beginning of the Symphony Fantastique was in 1827. He attended a performance of Hamlet's Hamlet, and saw a Irish actor Harriet Smithson as Ophelia, and he like immediately smitten in the way that only somebody that sees a person on stage as a character and never meeting them in their life can be smitten.
That's unfortunately the realest human emotion.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I'm momentarily in love.
Yeah, if anybody, of anybody I've ever researched, Berlioz has to be the most head empty, romanticism only that I've ever come across.
He's like, I want all the emotion.
Well, the weird thing about it is, he did have all these crazy emotions, and he like was able to represent them in his music, but that's only because he could look at himself from like super cold perspective, like scientist
That
with their
idiot.
experiment. Yeah, he looked at himself and he's like, very interesting. We're gonna put this in song.
He's like,
But
I'm a
he still
joke.
had it. Yeah. It's crazy.
I love it.
He sent Harriet like letters and flowers and all this stuff, like trying to get her attention, and she
Did
didn't
you try
respond to
an
any of
ear? You should have tried an ear. I hear that works.
I hear that does well for you. No, I'm pretty sure he even got an apartment near her so he could like keep track of her. So honestly, good for
This,
her not responding to this.
she did the right thing.
Harriet is my girl.
You just imagine looking across like this like little 1800 street and just seeing him like pressed to the window, like staring at you
Trying to just
walking,
leave in the morning.
try to go to work, go
Yeah.
practice.
Ugh,
You
that's
have this little
probably
man
exactly
just
what
staring.
happened. Yeah. So he was like obsessed with her, sent her all this stuff. She doesn't respond. She leaves the country
As
without
you
ever
do.
seeing him.
I
Yeah,
would too.
because like they came for the performance and then they left because it was over, and she like never responded to him, and he was like, "No, this won't do." And so he wrote the Symphony Fantastique.
That is so much.
It only gets better.
I love it.
Okay, so this was written in 1830, which is 3 years after the performance. Um, and my notes here, history suggests he wrote at least a part of it on opium. Probably because of the contents of the piece. And it was described by Leonard Bernstein, super big composer, conductor guy,
A hero.
as, yes, indeed, as the first musical expedition into psychedelia, which I
Mm,
just love.
I just love that he did what all of these bands in like the 60s were gonna do, but way before, just because he was emotionally distraught about this like woman he had seen for like 2 hours on stage.
Yeah, exactly. Bernstein said, Berlioz tells it like it is. You take a trip, you wind up screaming at your own funeral. If that tells you anything about what we're getting into.
Berlioz is rock and roll.
Yeah,
He
I
got it
worry
before
about
other
him.
people got it.
He did.
Rock didn't start in America.
Oh, no, 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 no.
This man, edgy.
He's incredibly edgy. Okay, so the symphony itself, it's programmatic, which means it's got a story behind it, which is kind of groundbreaking at the time for a symphony, because the only other person that even came close to that was Beethoven. But now Berlioz is like, here's my 2-page program notes. Read the story while you're listening to it.
Oh no.
Yeah, he made his own program notes.
That's what I do as my Spotify playlists.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Understandable. So it tells the story of a gifted artist, and is it unrequited or unrequited?
I think I've heard said either way, but I always say unrequited because it sounds fancy. I'm a sham of an English major sometimes.
I feel like that's the English language, though.
Yeah, I think you say it either way.
Cool. Unrequited love. And I'm just gonna go right through the story of it and what
I'm
he
ready.
did with it. All right.
I'm ready.
Movement 1, Daydreams, Passions. Why?
It's him.
It's Berlioz.
We're making fun of him.
Sir. Oh, it only gets better. Okay, this
I'm so
is
ready.
young musician afflicted by I turned you off.
It's him.
By by what one author called the vagueness or confusion of passions. He sees a woman that's like his ideal person. Like in his imagination, he had a vision and he saw this lady and she was it. And so he much like Berlioz, instantly falls in love. And the woman is attached to the EDA fix, which is like a recurring theme, like one line theme that comes back through every single movement. And it kind of just is there because he cannot get this lady off his mind.
I just like her popping up.
Yeah, she just kind of shows up, whether or not she's actually there. Second movement is a ball. And the guy finds himself in like all these different situations. And he's at like a party for the ball. He's sightseeing on the countryside. But the EDA fix like keeps coming back. So the woman's image is like haunting him, as you do.
That is of this time.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the movement that's a waltz.
I love a good waltz.
Yeah.
My favorite type of music.
And there's parts of it where like the EDA fix is distant, like she's not actually there, and then there's some parts where like it's right there and then it gets cut off by like other pieces of music. Like at the ball he like hears it and she's like right there, and then she gets cut out of view by like all these other party goers.
So like the ADA fix is like to use something that I know well. So like Phantom of the Opera,
Yes.
like every time you hear the do 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 do, just randomly throughout the music every once in a while, like when he pops in, kind of.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
pretty much it.
Love it.
Third movement, scene in the country. He hears two shepherds in the distance, and they're just like calling to each other. It's a nice pastoral scene.
Gotta love a good
Pastoral?
pastoral scene.
Yeah. Uh, and like this calms him. Like the music is nice and calm, and he's finally not losing his
There's
entire
some
mind like Berlioz was his entire life.
there's some good fields and sheep.
Yeah. No,
Maybe if
these
Berlioz
two
had went and saw some
shepherds.
sheep, he would have been better. And be like, maybe I shouldn't get that apartment.
Somebody send him to the countryside. It's like when those old Victorian ladies were afflicted with like dizziness and they sent them to the ocean.
Yeah, you go to like
Oceanside.
Bath,
Yeah.
London, or you would go to like the ocean because you had like your constitution wasn't doing well.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's mostly they were like a little depressed, or they were just like
Or it was
not
obvious
having a good
like
time.
mercury and asbestos they put in all their stuff.
Yeah, and they're like, just throw them in the ocean, they'll be happy again.
They'll be fine. I feel like that's what he needs.
He needs to get thrown into a good ocean for a little while.
Oh yeah.
Purification.
So the guy's sitting just in this nice countryside. He's like chilling out, he's calm, and he's just thinking, and obviously he's thinking about this lady. Because what else does he think about?
Nothing. Just her.
Yeah. He's basically brooding.
Oh,
And
good.
he's hoping he won't be alone anymore. He has been thinking about this for so long, and he realizes that she might betray him and find somebody else. Like, this is a possibility.
I like that he's like, my imaginary ideal person would like betray me.
Yeah, he's like, I don't
He's like,
know
let's
if
be
he's
a little
talked to this lady
realistic.
at this point. Yeah, we have to think about these things, prepare
That's
for
so
every
bold.
eventuality.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the slow movement, adagio, and it ends with like a roll of thunder in the timpani, so that's kind of neat.
Timpani.
Yes, it's so good. And so how he deals with this potential betrayal from a woman he's probably never talked to is he poisons himself with opium.
I love it. And you know, Berlioz is like, well, I have to try it now. That way I know what I'm writing about.
Life imitates art.
He's like, this
Yeah,
won't
so
be realistic.
this is where the accusations of him being on opium come from, which is not even far off, probably.
Yeah, I feel like he probably used it like an excuse. Like he's probably already like doing opium on opium. I don't know what phrase you would use for this.
Yeah.
But like he just like I have to do it so actual opium individuals don't call me out when they hear my symphony. It's like the
People
Grateful
are gonna come
Dead.
up to him after the premiere, like, having actually done opium.
That was nothing like it. And he's like, I should have did it.
He should have done it.
He had that vision of anxiety and was like, I have to know because she left and she can't be offended that I didn't get my facts right.
How relatable. um, yeah, this is the point in our class, my classical romantic studies class, that my professor would come out of the Confucius Institute, like 2 doors down, and he's like, well, guys, I asked them if they had any opium for us, and they said they didn't, but I tried. And I'm like, thanks, Barry.
He's like, you won't get it.
Yeah.
Without the experience.
You need. This is an immersive class.
We put ourselves in the place of the composer. You will all write a symphony.
Oh, okay. Dude, that would be. Every one of us in that class writes an entire symphony.
That would have been the closest equivalent to the secret history of all time. Like you just have like a Bacchal. But it's just
I'm telling you,
music.
the 5 of us in that class,
You'd have to
one of us was
one.
like sketchy. He'd be the one we would sacrifice.
So like you have to have
Darian.
one person that you have to like give up because that's just the rules of the secret history.
We already know who it would be. We had the eccentric professor. We got the old building on the 3rd floor.
I love it. You had like the perfect recipe, but
it was. We just
he stopped it before it went too far.
Yeah.
Unlike that,
he did what
he did what he could not.
He did what the secret history professor could not.
No. So like this is his like psychedelic movement of the song. Is it about the one about the opium?
Yeah, these next 2 movements are all in the opium dream. Because he poisons himself with opium, but it's not enough to kill him. It's just enough. No. It's just enough to send him into like a really deep sleep. And he has all these crazy dreams, as you do when you're on drugs. And in this dream, he kills this lady. He kills his beloved.
I just love how quickly it turned. Like he's like, my ideal woman must murder.
Yeah. I'm imagining it's something along the lines of like, if I can't have her, nobody can. Except when,
it's in your brain.
Yeah, it's all up here. Not enough to kill him, but he kills his beloved, which is important later. And he's condemned, and he's watching his own execution. He's sent to the guillotine. He's watching from the outside, out-of-body experience. The march is described as sometimes somber and wild, and sometimes brilliant and solemn. Heavy footsteps following like the biggest, loudest outbursts of sound. And at the very end of it, the beginning of the EDA fix is played just before a big crash of the guillotine dropping and softly plucked strings of the bouncing of the severed head.
This man was not doing well when he wrote.
This was his coping mechanism.
This was
Not just the opium. He had to
no.
write a whole symphony
He's like, I
about
have
it.
to write about me being guillotined. That's
Yeah.
the only way to get over this. And I just like the fact that he couldn't just leave it at like the crash for like to be
No.
subtle. He's like, gotta have the head bounce.
Yeah.
We're going for accuracy here.
Exactly.
So that's also saying that this wasn't like the French where they had like a little basket that would catch the head. These people just
Apparently
like,
not.
no
They
basket.
just
Let the head go.
let it go.
Just
We
rolling down
don't
the
need it
streets.
anymore.
That's just
Okay.
like the edgiest musical, like classical music moment to me is just the
Yeah,
fact that,
it's super.
like, okay, sir.
Like I said, this was like great for this time because nobody had done a programmatic symphony before like this, and he
No,
made it a drug trip where he is attending his own funeral.
Beethoven wished he couldn't do that.
Exactly.
Like, none
This
of
is
these
why
other composers
Berlioz.
were willing to go the extra mile and do the opium
Yeah,
to write
you
your symphony and be accurate, and then also kill yourself within the music at an
gotta commit
execution.
to the bit.
Yeah,
This is why Berlioz is like the romanticism dude.
I love him.
Beethoven started it, kicked him off, but Berlioz really took it all the way.
Beethoven just walked so Berlioz could like sprint.
Exactly. I mean, I've got a quote here about Beethoven from him. He said, "Now that I've heard that awe-inspiring giant Beethoven, I realize what point of the art of music has reached. It's a question of taking it up to that point and carrying it further. No, not further, that's impossible. He attained the limits of art, but as far in the other direction. There are new things, many new things to be done. I feel it with an immense energy, and I shall do it. I have no doubt if I live."
That's the most chaotic response. Some be like, he's taken as far as it can go, and I must push the boundaries more if
This
I
is
survive.
the energy I'm getting from this is Philip Hamilton saying, "I gotta be like my father, but bolder."
You're right.
When we all know
That does it in
Hamilton.
well.
Yeah, that's the same energy.
Yeah, this is like all of these artists who are like, this is my inspiration, but now I gotta take it times 1,000.
Yeah, at what point do you like,
Do
this
you
is it?
realize?
This is all I can do.
Yeah.
There's gotta be something, right?
Do you think he tried to write like a really like nice story to be like Beethoven? He's like, no. He's like, you know what Beethoven wouldn't do? Execution. And he's like, this is how I push it further.
This is how we go even
This
further
is how I keep
beyond.
music moving.
The fun thing about this movie is he claimed to have written it in one night, which is probably just one big drug trip. And he was able to do this because he took it from another unfinished opera, which I think it's funny. I don't know what the opera was about or where he got the idea from, but I love that you said maybe he tried to write something nicer. Maybe he did, and it got turned into this.
This is supposed to be like a beautiful, like, the guy's going to war and his beloved comes, like, and runs to him right before the war, and, like, they profess their love, and so he's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna write about my head falling off now. He's basically,
Yeah.
like, harkening back to last episode, Stephen King, where he just would have a massive drug trip and write this thing,
Write these
monster,
things.
and just be like, I don't remember how I got here, but here's this product.
This is exactly the right drunk edit sober.
Yeah.
Okay. Last movement, fifth movement, is the dream of a witch's Sabbath. He sees himself at a witch's Sabbath in the midst of a hideous gathering of shades, sorcerers, and monsters of every kind who have come together for his funeral. So he's
Aw.
literally just hanging out at his own funeral with all these, like, black magic creatures.
I mean, that's fun.
We're having a good time.
It's a
This
party.
is the best party we've seen.
Yeah, you have some fun little creatures there, I'm sure. Some little goblins, and that'd be a blast.
I feel like it would have been a great time. At
Sounds like a
least there
plan.
they won't like get in the way of you and your love like they did at the ball.
Yeah.
Um, because the EDA fix returns. She's back.
Good.
It's less sweet and noble, but this time it's like a vulgar, grotesque dance tune. That all these things, they're just partying. They're
Remix.
going. Yeah! And I love on the page that I was reading from, it had like this description of the movement, and then it had like ellipses. She's coming to the Sabbath. Ellipses. She
That's
joins the.
that's so
Yeah.
ominous.
Yeah.
With it in between two ellipses.
Because the EDA fixes, like, yeah, it's a remix, but she's definitely back, and she is there with the monsters celebrating his life or death
That's all
to
he could
be.
want.
Yeah. Uh, the and the funeral knell tolls, just and at the very end of it, he brings in the Dies Irae, which is like a uh religious like piece. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's
I think so.
yeah,
I believe so.
it's basically a super old like here's what we sing in church. Here's what we play in church. It's not secular music because back then they would like separate it so like hardcore line in the sand. This is secular music. This is religious music. So he put this Dies Irae in the Witch's Sabbath, which is probably
He probably wasn't
almost
supposed to do it.
sacrilegious.
This is also how he pushes the boundary. He's like, what would Beethoven not do? And then he's like, ah.
Yeah, this would have been like at least as shocking as an actual execution being tone painted in music.
I love it.
Is this thing like a lot of people know it, and then it's just here among all these other things where
Just
it's
some
definitely not supposed to
witches
be.
and some
Yeah,
demons and goblins and things like boogieing, and then here's like this holy piece of music that
yeah,
is supposed to be heightened religion.
pretty much. So that's that's the run through. That's the Spark Notes version of the Fantastique.
I love it so much. I've
Yeah.
listened to it since you've mentioned it like a few times, and like I vaguely knew, all I knew was about the execution scene and like there's witches in it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
That's the important part, honestly.
Not the
So,
pastoral scene.
no, we're
No one
here for
likes
the
a pastoral.
murder. Okay. After Berlioz writes this, he tries to move on. And I guess it's like a little bit of like personal therapy for him that he got this out of his system because he was able to move on. And he got
Oh, good.
engaged to a young pianist named, I'm gonna butcher this,
It's okay.
Marie Félicité Denise Moque.
I feel bad for her.
French. Yeah.
She's
I
not going
mean,
into a successful life.
well, the great thing is both Marie and her mother were in favor of this. They were
Oh,
like
good.
down. They were good to go.
Good, I'm
Um,
glad. I was
yeah,
worried for her.
they were going to be married once Berlioz would return from a 2-year study in Italy. So he left. They were all set, and then I think like 3 weeks after he got to Italy, he learned that she was breaking off the engagement to marry an older, richer dude that was
Oh
like the heir of
no.
some piano company. So
He's
like
been
right up her alley.
besmirched.
Yeah. He's just one slide after another, but I will say he does not deal with these things well.
No.
First
Really? This man doesn't cope well?
Emma, listen, he thought the opium was bad.
Oh boy.
Man, he is understandably outraged. I would be angry and upset.
I mean,
too.
I get it. I would also be quite upset.
Yeah, I would be a little upset.
I'm amazed that she was willing to break off the engagement, fully knowing that he wrote his last piece
that he was
about like his last like unrequited love situation.
that he's insane.
Yeah.
But she did. she she broke it all off, and Berlioz went and bought a disguise and pistols and poisons, and he got on a train to kill Marie and her mom.
No. I want to root for him, but I can't.
I know. He's the original problematic guy.
He's so dramatic about it.
Yeah.
Did he get like the poisons and pistols just to be double sure, but to be triple sure? He's like, I need a disguise.
I guess.
So just like, I want to imagine one of those like stick-on mustaches. He just puts it in like a monocle and he's like, I'm new.
It's like, are you sure you sound a lot like Berlioz?
He's like, oh, no.
No.
He's like, I would never write that music. It's too good for me to write.
It's too good. Oh, classic. He gets on this train. And then on the train, he changes his mind. And he goes back to Italy.
Good. I'm like, this is going to take a really dark turn.
No, he changed his mind.
He's just like a movie, like cartoon villain.
Pretty
but
much,
without commitment.
He can't follow through.
He's got no follow through like other cartoon villains.
So disappointed. Okay. Best part of this whole thing. Harriet heard the symphony 2 years after its premiere. And finally agreed to see him because she realized, oh heck, this is all about me.
Good. I love a good egotistical actress.
Yep.
I'm a muse.
She heard this and then the follow-up piece for like a solo performer that he wrote. She heard them both and she's like, wow, this is really good. And it's for me. And so she goes to see him. And they don't speak a common language.
Oh no.
Hector Berlioz went into that play in 27 not knowing anything that they were saying. But, you know, it's Shakespeare, so it's okay.
He's like, I get it.
Yeah, he's like, I got it, it's fine. So they couldn't understand each other. But somehow, Berlioz, like, got across to her that, like, I want to marry you.
I feel like he'd just get down on one knee, like, on the spot, and then just make it very
well, clear. Here's one story about what he did. Make sure I got this right. Yep, he produced a vial containing a lethal dose of opium and swallowed it. Basically, like... Are you crying?
Like... Oh, why is that his, like, pathway? He's like, I know we don't speak the same language. How would she know it's a lethal dose of opium?
Probably because she remembered this dude sending her, like, an ungodly amount of letters that were just like, I love you. Please.
He's trying to Romeo and Juliet it. He's like...
He's very much a Romeo.
That's the most dramatic choice you could make in that moment, is just to drink something that'll kill you right in front of the person.
The non-committal continues because hysterically, Harriet Smithson was like, okay, I'll marry you. What are you doing? He pulls out the antidote from another pocket and swallows that.
I hate this man. He's gaslighting everyone, including
the worst. I was telling my coworkers about this, and I'm like, I have to go talk about a stupid man, but I chose this.
Like, this is the most chaotic story of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like he gets me worried and concerned for other people. And he's like, just kidding.
Yeah. Just, this is it. This is romanticism.
He's
living it.
At first when you said non-committal, I thought she was gonna say yes, and he'd just like throw up on her shoe or like spit it out. Nope, he drank it.
He had to back out in the most dramatic way possible as well.
He's like, Just wrenches off the cap of the
Yeah.
antidote and like throws it back.
The cork.
He's like, this would have been awkward if you had said no.
Yeah, I only found that story on like one place.
I'd
It
believe it with
seemed,
his track record.
yeah, no, yeah, I totally like I see it. I understand.
This is him.
Everywhere else just says they fell in love and they got married
No.
in October of next year. I'm pretty sure she was put up to it.
I'm sure she just suddenly not understanding anything he's saying is just like, I'll do whatever if you just. She probably also
True.
thought he was gonna die and it was gonna make him like happy for like the last like
Yeah.
2 minutes of his life,
Yeah.
and now she's still with him.
Now she's stuck.
Uh
That kind of sucks.
oh, Harry.
Did that. Neither spoke the same language. I guess they slowly learned each other's languages because they did get married.
They should just pick a
And
third party
they
language.
lived together. Yeah, they
Like both
worked on
learn a
something
language
new.
together.
That's couple bonding.
As
It might have
bonding.
helped them because
They would be at the same level in that language. They'd only be able to say like a
Yeah.
very basic sentence without like any other things except nouns.
Yeah. They, they get to know where's the bathroom, and then one of them is like, man, learning a language is hard. I don't know if I can do it.
They just learn what cat is in every language.
Oh yeah, me too though.
That's the only word I need to know in most languages. I'm like, what is cat?
Cat? Grab me hands.
Cat.
Yeah. So they were married, and surprisingly enough, the marriage turned bitter.
Really?
Crazy, I know.
I
Berlioz
never would have
was on
thought
the
it
up and
out of
up.
this boy.
He was on the rise. He was like burgeoning star. He was already
Oh,
yeah,
fame
he was
made
up.
him the worst.
And then no. Here's what happened. You said what was the word you used to describe her? Like self-centered actress.
Yeah.
Her career was on the decline,
Oh.
and she was not happy about it because they were
Oh.
like opposite directions, up the chart, down the
And
chart.
she's like, that song's
And
about
she's
me.
like, this is stupid. And according to sources, she's like becoming abusive, just angry all the time.
Aw.
And so Hector copes in his usual way, and he finds a mistress. But that's more usual for the time, I feel like.
I feel like out of everything he's done to cope, that one makes, like, it's still awful and a bad move, but it somehow is like the lesser of all of his other choices that he's
it
made
makes
up to
the
this
most
point.
sense. Exactly.
Especially for the time period.
Yeah. Funny enough, her name is also Marie.
Oh,
And
I don't like it.
so, but the crazy thing is, like, Harriet Smithson, like, finally dies, and he marries his mistress, Marie. And they have, like, a nice, happy marriage. But for some reason, Berlioz leaves instructions for Harriet's body to be exhumed once he dies and buried next to him. And they are buried next to each other.
That's what happens in Wuthering Heights. That's what Heathcliff wants. He gets mad that Kathy's buried with like her actual husband, and he like there's a scene of him like going out and like digging up the grave. And he's like, she's supposed to be next to me, and that is the vibe.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
No,
Heathcliff
that's...
is also remarried, like has a wife. I think Isabel
if you have a
dies.
second wife and a happy marriage, can you just let yourself be
He's
happy?
like, I need my toxic wife.
He's so obsessed with this woman.
I hate that.
Yeah. That's Berlioz.
Harriet probably also, like, the spirit of Harriet's like, no.
She's like, please, I don't want this. I just want to be left alone.
Can you imagine being second wife and knowing that that full well is his plan?
Like, from everything I've seen, like, they had a fine marriage, so, like, good for her.
And
But
she's just like, I guess.
also, you chose Berlioz. So...
the worst person.
Yep. Yeah. That's... the more I read into him, the more I realized this man was absolutely insane.
He did not know how to like there were plenty of like very impassioned authors and poets at this time that did some choice things that we today would be like, huh, but his choices,
Even looking back with a historical lens.
yeah, they also are crazy even for the time.
Yeah.
And the best part is like in Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. It's like a famous Russian book that I just recently read and I love it. And it is about like Russia post-revolution and like the devil comes to Russia because he's gonna host like his infernal ball there. Because he's like, what a perfect
Oh
place.
yeah, Russia.
And the
It all
first
cancels out.
person to die uses the pen name of Berlioz, and like the devil's like talking to him, and he's telling him his future along with like this guy's like essentially like assistant type figure, like he's training this guy to be like him. They're like writers that write against like the Russian government, and so they use pen names and
Sure.
stuff. But Berlioz, the character, gets his head sliced off by a train
Hmm.
because he slips down the stairs and the train goes whack, but his head bounces like it goes. And so when you told me that, I'm like, that's that book. And then they have like a ball and his head's there. Like they just
When was
carry it
this
around
written?
in a platter. It was like written during the Stalin years, but it didn't get published till the 60s
Okay.
because the author knew full well he would get killed if this book got
Get
published
murked
under
for it.
Stalin's reign. But like they
Wow.
and there's this infernal ball scene, and with like the devil and his entourage, and one of them's a cat named Behemoth who walks on his hind legs and is
Behemoth.
just a hero. And then but they carry around Berlioz's little head, and it's animated, it's talking on like a silver platter, and it's just
They
there at
just
this
made a
party.
hand puppet of his head.
Yeah, and it's just going. And then that's what this Symphony
Oh,
Fantastique reminds me of, just
that's
that entire fever dream of a book.
yeah. It's probably based a little on
That book is trippy, just like this.
yeah, just like this. He really got his inspiration. That's the word I'm looking for.
He's like, let's just have a character that is blatantly a reference to this.
Yeah, exactly.
What a chaotic man.
Yeah. And
I
like he totally went for only things out of your own head. If you take things from other people and make something of your own, that's dumb.
He's like, this has to be just my envisioned life.
This just has to be your fever dream.
Oh, he is peak romanticism. Like he's romanticism to the point where like I don't know if you can call it romanticism anymore. Like he just stretched the boundary of what it is to
He
me.
basically set the boundary, I feel like.
Because like at that point, isn't it? It's more like surrealism, where it's like what
Kinda, yeah. Because you got like Beethoven at the start of it, and then like soon after him, Berlioz was like, pew! And he's way out here, and then everyone else in Romanticism gets to hang out comfortably in the middle.
who? Yeah, has anyone reached as far as you know in your music study like the level of
Uh,
Berlioz?
like in his time, I'm
Literally
pretty sure
anyone.
he was
That's like a
when
composer.
it with his life. I don't know about anyone that's that just crazy. I know you get up to like more modern times and you get the like more modern music, like 4 minutes 33 seconds.
Yeah.
You know that one. It's literally just silence and the music is whatever sounds happen in the audience.
I also hate that one a lot. That'd be so
I knew you would.
uncomfortable. Like, is
Yeah.
the performers just on stage
Yeah,
staring
that's
at
the
the
best
audience?
part. No, 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 no. The,
Are you like
the best
fake
part is
playing?
no, you just sit at the piano. That's because they say it can be played with any instrument. So you go out on stage, you got your instrument, you sit down, and you sit there for 4 minutes and 33 seconds.
God, why didn't I do that in high school?
Can I put that on my recital?
I could have been a genius.
I want to put that on my recital.
Please do it. I'll go and I'll make noises in the
I'll
audience.
give myself a break.
I will just be out there making noises in a rhythmic
Yeah.
way, and then
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, it's working.
I'm making music. I love that.
Just like one clap, and you're like, there it is. That was it. I feel like that is Berlioz's level, because like where he went for maximalism, like this goes to the other end of the spectrum for complete minimalism.
Yeah.
He's
this
like, I
guy
want every
definitely-
noise.
Yeah. By John Cage. And John Cage, I'm pretty sure he was the guy that does a whole bunch of kind of crazy things, because he used instruments that they weren't instruments. That was his whole thing. He would write entire pieces using like the sound of running water and like an alarm clock and metronomes and just whatever else he could find. Literally
kind of
household
hate him.
objects.
Like I have
John
no
Cage
reason
was
to,
an innovator.
but like I don't like how that is
But at
music,
what
but it's not.
cost? Yeah.
It upsets me. I feel like there's a group of like music purists somewhere out there that are just like he's their enemy number one.
Yeah. They hate
Where it's
him.
like, how dare you just sit in silence?
Yeah.
I want an entire group to do the silence thing. Where like an entire orchestra comes out, no one does anything.
Nobody moves.
Or they just pretend to be
Jeez.
playing, but never like touch anything or actually do air. They're just like doing the slide on the trombone, or just like their bows never touching the string.
Yeah.
And they'll always be like, am I
Exactly.
having a stroke?
Just find a piece that's 4 minutes and 33 seconds long and pretend to play that, but just don't make the sound.
Yeah. Or just do the Symphony Fantastique.
Yes.
You should do that for
That's
your
your other
recital.
option. Bruh, if I could pull off an entire symphony.
Just on trombone.
Yeah. I wouldn't even need anything else. That's my whole thing. The piece
I
is
can
like
drop some
45 minutes
cymbals
long.
in the back and just let them crash down.
Yeah.
Be like, wow, the
The
beheading.
thunder.
I'll bounce a basketball for like the head.
Yeah, you get
like,
the
it's
thunder, the guillotine, and the head. Those are your pieces.
It'll just be like accidental me dropping things in the audience.
Very
just-
well timed.
Yeah, just be like, oh, whoops.
Oh
God,
no!
dribble my basketball really quick. It'd be how quick can I get kicked out of the University of Idaho music department.
They wouldn't. Not if I said she's with me.
I like that you have that power.
I just have an incredible ability to be a teacher's pet. I'm sure
Me
you
too.
know what I'm talking about.
In music classes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun and a nightmare.
Yeah.
I know more about this man than I had ever like hoped to ever know.
I feel a little slighted that Barry didn't tell us about his murder plan in class.
You should be the teacher of that class.
Yeah.
Teach an entire class
Barry
on him.
Bilderbeck. I'm
It-
teaching this now.
Wow, called out. You just get an ed degree and then just teach a class solely on.
Only about Berlioz.
You could make it last a semester, I'm sure.
We could certainly try.
You could like go in depth, like here's how opium works. And then that way they have the background knowledge when they go
Yeah,
into it.
Of
That they're like,
course.
ah, yes, opium.
See, I could make it last longer if I just hold the bacchanal.
That is true.
This is what Romanticism is about. Romanticism. Okay, you know what? Berlioz basically is like Dionysus levels of insane.
That is true. He reached it. He did the
So-
unthinkable.
So it kind of fits.
I just want him to have met some of my authors from the romanticist time period, because I feel like he and like Percy Shelley and Lord Byron and all of them would have just vibed,
Yeah, probably.
because they all made bad choices in the name of art.
They were all arguably bad people.
Yeah, Percy was like, he was fine. He had a
Okay.
cool. Mary Shelley was cooler than him.
Somebody had to be the sane friend.
That is true. He was like
If
the
you had
emotion.
Lord Byron and Berlioz in the same room,
That would
somebody
just
had to
be raw, chaotic energy. Where you're like,
somebody
oh
had to
no.
keep him in check.
That would be the equivalent of Avengers Endgame, but with like the romance. We're just like, what's happening?
What's
Why are they
going
all
on?
teaming up?
And a vague sense that this shouldn't be happening like this.
So do you love Berlioz more now, or do you hate him more since learning about his various schemes?
I mean, I appreciate the fact that he went so full romanticism, but the issue being full romanticism is not a good human way to be.
That is, yeah, that's the
You need
moral
to
of this
have a
story.
little bit of like you hold on to the enlightenment, but then you can move forward
Just
with
in
like
case.
yeah, that's
That's
your
your like
fallback
impulse
plan.
control. Is
Yeah.
the enlightenment that is meant to stop you from doing things that he did not have.
I just appreciate this man as a problematic individual with a lot of genius. I don't know about you.
I appreciate what he was able to accomplish with his music,
Yeah.
and that he is apparently the father of psychedelia music.
Something.
He did what the people in the 1960s and 70s were trying, but way before that.
But way before.
Like Sergeant Pepper's Eat Your Heart Out, this is Symphony Fantastique. But I don't know. I think he's not a good person, but then again, like I like F. Scott Fitzgerald from the 20s and he was awful. And so like I can appreciate the art outside of the artist. So
Yeah.
where I'm like,
That's
yes,
the whole thing.
this is brilliant. You are a scumbag. Like you're a disaster of a human being.
Yeah.
Well, this
Because you
has
have
been
to realize
yeah,
this is like one of the most famous pieces ever written. But
I
yeah,
love it.
this has been great. Thanks for listening to me.
This has been another riveting episode of the Strange Academia podcast. Tune in next time for
Yes.
something else chaotic that we research.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.